Make sure y'all stay on point with
The Puncher's Point. What is good, y'all? Welcome back to The Puncher's Point. Prediction time. We got Junto Nakatani versus David Cuellar. I know what y'all are saying. Another prediction episode, Mario. Yes, we got to get these prediction episodes out the way. And then from here, it's going to be all post-fight episodes. So, just be ready. Just stay in tune. I'm going to try and make them as entertaining as possible. We got Junto Nakatani versus David Cuellar for the WBC Bantamweight Championship. Now, for y'all who don't know who Junto Nakatani is, if you don't know who he is, you got to look him up because, this guy is one of the fastest rising stars in boxing. We're talking about a guy who is 29-0 with 22 knockouts. And the guy he's facing, David Cuellar, 28-0 with 18 knockouts. However, we're going to get to it in a little bit later on. We're going to get more into depth with it with David Cuellar. But the opponents that Cuellar's fought versus the opponents Nakatani's fought, they're not really on the same level. But overall, let's start with the champion, Junto Nakatani. So, this fight first is going to be taking place in Japan. So that's the first thing. But we got Junto Nakatani. Now, when I think about his most dangerous strength, I would say how dangerous of a puncher that he is. And on top of that, his versatility. The guy, he will go upstairs, he will go downstairs. And on top of that, he can hit you in anything. Now, somebody in one of my previous videos about Junto Nakatani said that he's kind of one-dimensional. Now, I went to go back and I went to go look at it, and I'm not going to say that he's one-dimensional, but there are some things that he does that can be a little bit predictable. But regardless, Junto Nakatani is a dog. And this man is dangerous. He's the only guy that I can think of that it can give Naoya Inoue a run for his money, besides maybe Jesse Rodriguez. And Jesse Rodriguez is too light right now. Junto Nakatani, if they make that fight happen, that's going to be a 50-50 fight. And that's the only 50-50 fight I could see you against Inoue within that 130-pound range. If you were to max it out at 130, that's the only guy I can see being competitive with him. But regardless, we're not here to talk about that. Junto Nakatani is a dangerous puncher. You go and you look at his previous fights. This guy goes in there and he's going to kill. He's not going in there to win off of points. Junto Nakatani, when he steps into a fight, he is going into that fight to kill. You go and you look at his last wins. You look at the guys that he's beaten. Um, you look at Salapat, TKO. You look at Vincent Astrolabio, KO. You look at Santiago, TKO. He had a unanimous decision against Cortez, but overall, he's just knocking guys out left and right. And Junto Nakatani is a guy you got to watch out for. Okay, this is a guy who is just dominating bantamweight boxing right now. And overall, he's becoming a Japanese boxing star while doing it. The guy's already a 3 division champion. So when you really go and you really look at it, Junto Nakatani, he's building himself a Hall of Fame career little by little. The other thing about him, if we're looking at some of the punches that he's really good at, he's very good with the straight left, the right uppercut. He's an elite body puncher. Let me tell you something. You do not want to get hit with one of those body punches from Junto Nakatani because he will find that body punch and he will strike you hard with it. And the guy is ruthless. He is a dangerous, dangerous fighter to prepare for, and he's a dangerous opponent. And then on top of that, he's got a very great gas tank. He can go 12 rounds for you. It don't matter to him. And last but not least, he's a very dangerous counterpuncher. He's very good at timing and picking his punches and picking the perfect moment to just strike you. And he hits you with bombs. Like it's not like he's counterpunching you with a jab. He is hitting you with bombs when he counterpunches you. So overall, Junto Nakatani, you have to watch out for him. Now, there are some weaknesses with Junto. I will say that. Now, one of the weaknesses with him is he moves back too much. In my opinion, I don't think he relies enough on his head movement, and the head movement can definitely improve. But when you see Junto Nakatani, a lot of his defense is him backing up. There's very few times I see Junto Nakatani stay centered and show real legit defense. It's always him backing up, creating space, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to constantly back up because that's a pattern that some fighters could pick up on. So I will say that is a weakness for him. Every single time a guy is going to throw an attack or going to put the pressure on him, he's constantly backing up. He's not looking to cut angles. He's not looking to, slide and move out the way. He's backing up constantly. And I feel like that could definitely be a problem. The other weakness that he has, he gets caught in the middle of exchanges. Now, lucky for him, he hasn't gone up against anybody that has given him real problems, like an Inoue. And I'm going to be honest, he's not going to go into this fight with any of those problems unless Cuellar lands a lucky knockout shot, which I don't think is going to happen. But with Junto Nakatani, he can't be getting caught in the middle of those exchanges against certain opponents. There's been times where he's been a little bit too aggressive. He kind of leaves his guard down, and in between those exchanges, because he wants to brawl during those times, he'll end up getting, punched, or somebody will end up, kind of landing a few shots on him that they just shouldn't. The other thing about him, I already said it, he lowers his guard a lot. And last but not least, he leaves the body open. Now, it's going to be hard to get to Junto Nakatani's body because he is so tall. He is good with his footwork. However, his body is left open. And if you can land on his body, those are some punches that you can land, especially on the inside when he wants to land some, when he wants to start exchanging. Those are the perfect times to target his body. Now, you might be asking, well, who's David Cuellar? And honestly, you're not going to find much from David. But if I had to give some of the strengths for David Cuellar, he's got a good jab. He's a brutal body puncher. I mean, I will say David Cuellar, he is a very, very good body puncher as well. And it's going to be interesting because your biggest strength is one of Nakatani's weaknesses. He doesn't know how to guard the body too well. So for David Cuellar, that could potentially be something that he might have to target or might want to, try to pick apart on Nakatani. He has a very nice left hand. That left hand is a dangerous left hand. And when he hits you with that left, he's looking to knock your lights out. David Cuellar. David Cuellar is a good fighter. I will say that, but I don't know if he's on the level of Nakatani. But let me tell you something. David Cuellar, if he hits you with that left hand, you're gonna be in trouble. It's as simple as that. He's gotten a lot of opponents out of there with that left hand. He's gotten a lot of opponents on the canvas with that left hand. So that I would say is his biggest punch, and that's gonna be the punch that Nakatani is gonna have to watch out for in this fight. And then last but not least, that KO power. I mean, they both got it. Cuellar definitely has it. I've seen Cuellar flat out just flatline people. I've seen the knockout that Nakatani had against Andrew Maloney. I've seen that same exact knockout numerous times. Or I've seen the same exact brutal fashion type like knockouts the same exact time from David Cuellar. So overall, he can knock people out too. Now, what are David Cuellar's weaknesses? Well, when we look at it, he relies too much on the left hand. If you go and you look at his fights, David Cuellar, put it this way, David Cuellar, when I watched him fight, he reminds me of Ryan Garcia. Constantly dropping the guard, and he relies too much on his left hand. I know Ryan, I think it's the right hook, but overall, too much on the left hand. Cuellar relies too much on that left hand to the point where the right hand sometimes isn't even a factor. He's not battle tested. I've said it before. Junto Nakatani has fought guys like Santiago, like Maloney. He's fought some champions, or former champions, but Cuellar's resume is not even on the same level as Junto Nakatani. So you haven't really been battle tested. There hasn't really been anybody that's given you a good fight. So how are you gonna do against somebody like Nakatani, who is the elite of the elite within those lighter divisions? He struggles against the ropes. Nakatani, if he can pressure him and put him up against those ropes, it's going to be a quick night for Nakatani, and it's going to be a brutal night for Cuellar if he finds himself up against those ropes. Flat-footed, I mean, he's got decent footwork, but he's flat-footed mostly, and sometimes I feel like because he's flat-footed, he kind of slows down a bit, and I think that's a problem as well, especially going up against a guy like Nakatani, where you're going to have to move out the way, you're going to have to create some type of distance. He has a wide stance, a very wide stance for David Cuellar. His stance is wide, and it just creates a wide target for Nakatani to hit. And then last but not least, he leaves his chin open during attacks. It's the same thing, same problem Nakatani has. He leaves his chin open during exchanges. So if you ask me, if I had to put money on who's going to connect, who's going to have a better connection during those exchanges, I'm going to pick Nakatani every single time. So, with that being said, what does each fighter have to do to win this fight? Well, I mean, Nakatani, let's be real. Nakatani is the heavy favorite to win this fight. He should be the heavy favorite, I should say, to win this fight. And overall, if I had to pick some keys, find counters and strike, and preferably with the left hand strike because he likes to drop that right guard. So I would say for Nakatani, preferably try to counterpunch him with the left hand. Pressure him on the ropes, use your footwork, and last but not least, guard against the left. Just make sure you don't get hit with that left hand, and make sure you don't get hit too much in the body, I would say. So those would be the keys for Nakatani winning this fight. As far as Cuellar, what's Cuellar going to have to do to get this upset? Well, if you ask me, I think Cuellar, he's going to have to target the body early. He's going to have to push Nakatani back. He's gonna have to force Nakatani to constantly move back, counterpunch him during exchanges, and I would say just try to get Nakatani in the body. Just keep on targeting that body as much as you possibly can. Any opening that you see, anytime you see a way to strike Nakatani, just get him in the body. I would say try to slow him down. Try to drain that gas tank. That's what I would say. Now, with that being said, the odds for this fight: -800 favorite for Nakatani and +550 for Cuellar. So if you ask me, who do I think is going to win this fight? Well, when you really go and you really look at it, I think look, if you were coming on this episode for me to hear an upset, you're not going to get one. I'm going to say Nakatani by knockout. I think it's going to be a fifth round knockout by Nakatani. I think he's going to, and honestly, the way I see it happening, body punch, that could definitely be it. But honestly, I see Nakatani hitting him with a left and just dropping him and knocking him out. Maybe he drops and gets back up and then he knocks him down again. But honestly, I think it's just going to be one and done. I think basically once he hits him with that first knockdown, I don't think Cuellar's getting back up. But if he does, either way, regardless, he's going to knock him out with a left hand. So I'm going to go Nakatani fifth round knockout. And this is overall a very short prediction episode. But the reason why it's so short, the reason why I didn't want to touch up too much on it, well, because first of all, when you have Nakatani fighting, I feel like that's worth definitely giving a prediction to. But not for nothing. There's only so many times we can keep on seeing Nakatani and Inoue fighting guys that we know they're gonna beat, and it's up to the promoters, the managers, all of that. It's up to them to honestly start figuring out how to, you know, promote their fighters better and get them into bigger fights. I mean, somebody like Nakatani should not be fighting David Cuellar. He shouldn't be fighting Salapa. He shouldn't be fighting Santiago. Somebody like Nakatani needs to start fighting some real fighters. You want to bump him up and put him up against Inoue, have those two fight. Whichever Inoue you want, whether that's Takuma, whether that's Naoya. If you want to do one of those, that's cool and all. But at the same time, I want to see them fight better guys. Honestly, I want to see them. I want to see them fight. I want to see them fight. Elite competition. And overall, I feel like we're not getting that out of a lot of these guys from Top Rank, especially the Japanese fighters. We're not really getting that. I mean, Satsumi is another one. If I like that fight. I like Nakatani versus Satsumi. I would like to see that fight. And that's a fight that can be made. So I would just like to see them step up in competition. I want to see guys like Nakatani and Inoue fight guys that I know that are gonna give them a challenge. I want to see Naoya fight MJ. I want to see Nakatani fight Satsumi. I want to see these guys get into big fights. I want to see Jesse Bam Rodriguez fight real legit competition. And Matchroom, they're doing their own thing with Jesse Rodriguez. And I think overall, I think he is building a good resume for himself. But I just want to see Nakatani promoted a lot better. Same thing with Inoue. I just want to see these two get promoted a lot better. And they deserve it. Japanese boxing definitely deserves it. So overall, after this fight, we're going to have to see. But to me, I'm just looking at this as like another tune-up for hopefully something big in the future. But there's no shock here. Nakatani, fifth round KO. And with that being said, make sure y'all continue to tune into the Puncher's Point. I do want to let y'all know that I recently did a collab episode on In the Red Corners channel. I definitely want you guys to check that out. Definitely go check out their last live on In the Red Corner. We talked about a lot of great topics. A lot of some topics you might not even hear me talk about on here. So make sure y'all definitely go check that out. Make sure y'all definitely go show them some love. But before you do that, make sure y'all show some love to the Puncher's Point. Make sure y'all show some love to the YouTube. Definitely the podcast on all podcast platforms, the social medias. Make sure y'all just continue to like, subscribe, share the content. If you know anybody who loves boxing, bring them here to the Puncher's Point, and I promise you, they ain't gonna regret it. So with that being said, make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point.